Hello, this is Anfisa again. After I received some of your session 1 assignments, I'd like to take some time and see how well some of you done, what we can learn from each other's works, and hopefully introduce another very effective technique that those of you who are interested in 7 plus score in IELTS writing might need to achieve that. So today we're going to look at several of your written works. Thank you very much, those who sent the works early. Let me just start the So we're going to look at 3 different works of 3 students answering or rather planning the same essay. And this is the topic that we talked about in the last session. This is about choosing a job, and the question is, to what extent do you agree or disagree with the fact that the salary is the most important consideration? We're going to look at 3 of the plans. Let's start with these 2. If you can, I'd like you to stop the recording and see what you think is done well and that could be done better in these 2 plans. Whether or not you decided to pause the video, let's look at it together. So the first thing that is striking here is that student A obviously spent too much time planning. Of course, planning is a skill, and the more you do that, the faster you manage to do it at the exam. But 9 minutes is a bit too long. And in a minute, we're going to get to why the student might have spent so much time. Now, student B, as you can see, have done pretty well. 3 minutes is a very good result, especially for the first plan in the assignment. Now, speaking of the content, what do you think person A could have done differently to spend less time planning? Well, I think this is obvious, isn't it? Student A wrote not even full sentences, but full paragraphs in the plan. Do you really need to write full paragraphs? Of course not. You don't even have to write sentences like student B did. And we're going to look at how to improve that. This is great. I liked the grammar and vocabulary in this student A work. But again, you don't need that in the planning, right? Planning is brainstorming. And one of the drawbacks of planning with paragraphs is, of course, the time that you spend. And the second problem is that it just takes you out this mode of brainstorming. It just asks you to consider how to structure your paragraph, what vocabulary to use, whether your grammar and spelling is right. This is not something you should worry about in the planning stage. So let's see how we could improve the first student's plan. My opinion, I disagree. That's it. You could do away with all of the other stuff. You only need a reminder to yourself that you disagree. This is the point of view that you've chosen. Body paragraph 1. I can see that the salary is one of the most important considerations when choosing a job. Do you really need to write that? No, you just choose 1 or 2 words. It's one of the most important considerations. Yes, so it's one of the most important considerations. Don't bother writing everything else. Humans need money for rent and food. That's it. You need to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words. It's going to be much easier, much faster. Now, body paragraph 2. But I don't think it should be most important consideration. Okay, not the most important is enough. Taking it as the most important consideration is equivalent to working for money. I believe people should not work for money. I think people should get certain satisfaction. Okay, satisfaction is the key word. Self-realization. That's it. That's your plan. Now imagine if student A didn't have to write all of that. And they didn't. You didn't have to write that. So if you don't spend your time doing that thorough writing, you can, I guarantee, you can lower this time to 3 or 4 minutes. Now, we're going to look at the arguments in a moment, but let's first look at the second, at the student's B plan to see how it could be done, made better. So I disagree. Very good. Even though salary is important for living, it's not the most important aspect. All right. How about this? Not the most important aspect. Full stop. Remember, it's just brainstorming, just ideas. You put ideas on the paper just to put them out there. Don't censor them. Just do it. Loving your job is most important. Okay, you won't be happy. Very nice idea. I'm going to leave it. Body paragraph 2. If you love your job, you'll be more successful and money will come to you eventually. All right? Love your job, money will come. I bet you could write a plan like this in under 2 minutes even. Now, here is a third student C's plan. Attempting to plan the future essay. Now, can you tell me how this is different from the previous two? Let's discuss it. Of course, 10 minutes is again a bit too much, but it didn't escape from my attention that this is highly structured. I can see there is some very cool analytic mind behind that. Body paragraph 1. This is your topic sentence. These are your arguments. Very good. Again, I would make them much shorter, but that's not the point here. If you look very carefully at the topic sentences, the ones that I'm underlining right now, there is something I'd like you to notice. So the person here partially disagrees. So neither agree nor disagree. This is absolutely fine. And in fact, today we're going to look at how present a balanced view with some types of the tasks. I partially disagree, they say, and body paragraph 1 starts with this. Salary is important in order to survive in metropolitan cities. Is it a sound argument? Absolutely. Something I talked about in the session 1 video, but the person also expands it and says, the prices are increasing. This is great. This is true. And this is very relevant for choosing a well-paying job. But when it comes to body paragraph 2, main idea of body paragraph 2, I'm not so sure this is the right thing to go, the right way to go. So other factors are equally important to sustain a healthy lifestyle. Now, it might be hair splitting, but I have questions about this. A healthy lifestyle. Do you think this is what we're asked about? Now, let me just talk to you for a bit before we return to this essay. I always tell my students that you should regard the examiner who checks your writing as a 5-year-old. Talk to them as if you were talking to a child. Be very explicit, be very clear in what you're going to say, because no examiner is going to give you a higher score based on what they think you meant in the essay. Do you see what I mean? They are not allowed to interpret, and for this reason you should be very clear yourself. Again, imagine you're talking to a 5-year-old who's going to ask you, why is that, why a healthy lifestyle, why are we talking about a healthy lifestyle if the salary is not important, if the salary is the topic? Okay, maybe a 5-year-old will not ask you that, but keep asking yourself, why? Because the examiner is going to ask themselves, well, why are they talking about that? Is it really what have been asked? So let's return to the plan for a minute. Can you argue with the fact that other factors are equally important to sustain a healthy lifestyle? I cannot. This is true. But by choosing this topic sentence, the author automatically assumes that everyone is after a healthy lifestyle. Do you see what I mean? That a healthy lifestyle is what is relevant. But why? Why is it the lifestyle that you're considering? Why is it not, I don't know, fame, or maybe self-realization, as the other person said? So let me just tweak it a little bit, still keeping this very good idea. Because the person partially disagrees and says that salary is important in body paragraph A, it means that in body paragraph 2, there should be an opposite point of view. So I would just move the healthy lifestyle argument to the arguments where it belongs and not to the topic sentence. I would just get rid of it here and say other factors are equally important. And then in the first argument, I would talk about healthy lifestyle as being one of those factors. For example, healthy, let's say health suffers if your job is stressful. For example, how could you, I hope this is readable. Health suffers if your job is stressful, right? For example, some employees take a lot of mental pressure, and it can result in brain stroke and other brain implication. You could also, as the author talked about in argument 1, say that um, too much work leads to no time for sport. And this is consideration number 3. So again, talking about the lifestyle in this context is not forbidden, and this is actually a very good point to make. But just don't put it in the topic sentence of your first body paragraph. Discuss it in the development. Now, a little bit later, we're going to look at other types of tasks. But right now, I'm going to show you a very neat technique that I call a yes but technique to help you structurize precisely this kind of structure, which is absolutely necessary if you are aiming at 7 and higher in writing. Because although it's true that you can agree or disagree and still get a good mark, presenting an opposite point of view and arguing with the opposite point of view is very good for increasing your task achievement score. So the person who wrote this is the closest of the people who have sent the assignments in, because they tried presenting two different views. And let me just show you a technique, as I said, that helps you plan it more carefully, plan it more, well, better. So as I said, I call it a yes but technique. And for this, I use a template like this. Now, shall we take the same? Yes, let's just continue working with this task. When choosing a job, the salary is the most important consideration. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So I've got a template here with 3 columns. They're called my arguments, opposite arguments, and yes but arguments. Let me show you how I suggest you fill it so it helps you plan your future essay if, again, you want to present 2 opposite points of view and still stick to one of them. So suppose I partially agree. Now, let's just say I agree for a start. I agree that salary is the most important consideration. And if you watch the previous video, you probably remember the arguments that I've given. The arguments were that you need to make a living for yourself, need to make a living for yourself, and two, it's to feed your family. That's quite straightforward, isn't it? Now, here is where I start thinking, well, what does a person who disagrees with this have to say? can I come up with arguments that would contradict my point of view? And I start thinking, well, um, of course, the salary follows a high paying job follows a very high stress work, isn't it? So a person who disagrees with this point of view might say that, let's say, high salary means lots of stress, and this leads to health implications. Very good argument, right? It's difficult to argue with that. Um, what else can they say? Why would someone disagree with that? Any ideas? I liked the student B. I think it was student B's idea about self-realization. Right? Self-realization is just as important. All right. So once you've covered that in your planning, this is time to look at the third column. It's called yes, but. Now, it's called like that because this is what you would say in good discourse. This is what you say on a debate session, for example. When you hear this argument, well, that's true that high salary leads to stress and health implications. Yes, but, and now you present why you disagree with that. Now, there is a difference between saying that this is untrue or incorrect. You shouldn't do that in IELTS because, well, if it's untrue, why did you mention it in the first place? No. Again, you say it to yourself, yes, high salary leads to lots of stress and it can damage your health, yes, but I still believe that choosing a job, the salary is the most important consideration because blah, blah, blah. This blah, blah, blah goes here. Yes, self-realization is just as important, but blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm going to finish this video now, and in the next video, we'll try to come up with ideas together. But just before you watch the second video, I would like you to brainstorm the ideas yourself. How would you argue with the opposite view arguments? How would you fill that column saying yes, but? I'll see you in the next video.